Agitorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
We fecit celum et terra.
We continue, this is history. We continue with Archbishop Lefebvre's overview of history, which is very important to have the right angle on history. What book is the best summary of all of human history from God's point of view?
The sacred scriptures.
The scriptures, that's right. It's all historic, it's all inspired, and it's the right vision of history from God's point of view. Okay, so we saw last time Descartes, Kant, and now Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was one of the philosophers of the French Revolution, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. R-O-U-S-S-E-A-U. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He's the one that promoted the noble savage idea. That man left to himself will be innocent, pure, sinless, and ever so kind and harmless. Is that true?
No.
If Cortez never came to the Indians in Mexico, would they all be peace-loving and kind to each other? No. When he arrived, what were they doing? Eating each other, sacrificing children, young men, ladies, tearing their hearts out. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau, all right. Rousseau emancipated from its object, having lost common sense. The subject is left without defense, faced with the common opinion. The thought of the individual is going to be dissolved into the public opinion. That is to say, in what everyone or the majority thinks. And this opinion will be created by the techniques of a group dynamics organized by the media, which are in the hands of the financiers, the politicians, the Freemasons, etc. So what is that system of government called based on the vote of the people?
Democracy. Modern
Right, modern democracy. Now, modern democracy has to be distinguished from what the ancients understood as democracy. The ancients understood something, again, at a very small level, like the city. You can elect your mayor of your town because everybody kind of knows everybody. And democracy works in such a system, or a smaller system, like
a village.
The village, or the team of scientists, or the team of medical doctors, or the team of stone workers. You know, it's or even as simple as a hockey team, or a basketball team, or a football team, or a baseball team. The team elects their captain. And that works, right? Because everybody knows this one knows the game well. He's a good leader. He understands the game, so forth and so forth. He's a good player. He's a good example. So this one should be the captain, right? Normally, that's how it goes. The team elects their captain and assistant captain, and the coach just approves. So that's where democracy works best, is at a small scale. But at a national scale, it's easily manipulated, as we know today. And this was Archbishop Lefebvre saying. Public opinion, everyone, or the majority, whatever they think, and this opinion will be created by the techniques of group dynamics organized by the media. So the media, they're going to have a huge influence on who's elected, and which are the hands of the financiers, the politicians, the Freemasons. So as Dr. Frederick Williamson, who taught at the University of Texas, he was a great Thomist, and a great defender of Francisco Franco as well. May his soul rest in peace. But he used to say that in the 60s, color TV was just coming out, and it had a huge effect on who the people voted for. So here on color TV, you've got the gray, old Nixon, right? Richard Nixon. And he's gray, he's not, they don't put makeup on him and do his hair special to appear on color TV, right? It's just something new. They don't even think about this. And here's the new, young, dazzling JFK, John Kennedy. So they put a little makeup on him, make his hair, make him look flashy and young. I mean, he won at a landslide. Not for what so much as what he represented, but he was young, spazazzy. He looked a lot better than the old gray, dying Nixon. And that's what he said. The media can manipulate the voting very, very easily. By its own impulse, intellectual liberalism falls into the totalitarianism of thought. I repeat, by its own impulse, intellectual liberalism, that is, freedom for all, without obedience to God's law, falls into the totalitarianism of thought. Now, isn't that true? Isn't that true? Think of the totalitarianism of thought today. You say anything against Israel, anything against the Jews, you're automatically labeled anti-Semite, right? And you can lose your job, you can lose your voting capacity. People get, really even put in jail, right? Fortunately, with all the scandals of Israel going on now, with the genocide and the bombings and the injustice and the sacrileges publicly done, people are waking up and realizing, hey, they're really abusing this anti-Semite slogan. Anyone's an anti-Semite now who just criticizes Israel. People are kicked out of school for it. So that's totalitarianism of thought, isn't it? Right? The liberal says you can think what you want, say what you want, but if you say anything that doesn't fit their square corral, then you're kicked out. Totalitarianism of thought. After the rejection of the object, we are seeing the evanescence of the subject. That is, the rising up of the subject being more important, which is thus ripe for undergoing all forms of slavery. Subjectivism, by exalting freedom of thought, results then in the crushing of thought. Isn't that interesting? Subjectivism, by exalting freedom of thought, results then in the crushing of thought. Anybody give another example? Well, modernist Rome. Everyone is allowed to come to Rome. Everybody is embraced. Everybody is acknowledged and recognized, except who?
The traditionalists.
The true traditional integral Catholics. They're cast out. In the modernist Rome picture, the true followers of tradition in the line of Archbishop Lefebvre, they don't even want to talk to them. The second mark of intellectual liberalism. All right, so let's back up again. We're talking about the two key words, subjectivism and evolution, which are manifest intellectual liberalism. The first we saw was subjectivism. Now we're going to treat of evolution. The second mark of intellectual liberalism we have mentioned is evolution. By rejecting the submission to the real, the liberal is drawn to reject the immutable essences of things, the unchanging essences of things. For him, there is no nature of things. There is no stable human nature ruled by definitive laws, set down by the Creator. So in other words, for the liberal, there is no absolutes. There are no absolutes. 2 plus 2 is 4, that's very constricting. Now we're modern and we believe that 2 plus 2 can be, other numbers, 10, 15, 20. We're not so confined as they were back in the Middle Ages, where they really believed 2 plus 2 is 4. That's the thinking. Man is in perpetual progressive evolution. The man of yesterday is not the man of today. One collapses into relativism. Doesn't matter what you believe. Now, isn't this well describes the modern man, right? What is more, man himself creates himself. He is the author of his own laws, which he has to refashion incessantly according to the sole inflexible law of needed progress. So the only real law is you have to always be progressing, moving forward, ever modern, ever updated. And that gets old. Look at all the college kids and high school kids. They're all trying to be cool and individual, right? But they're all walking around in sweats and some kind of, what do you call those things on their feet?
Man Uggs.
Man Uggs?
They're called Uggs.
Uggs?
Yeah.
Like a plastic clog?
I don't even know.
All right, but everybody's dressed that way. Everybody has tattoos. So where's the individual in the liberal thinking? They're all the same. There are no individuals. They talk about being my personal individual, but they're all the same, right? And all the girls are in pants. They're all look the same. So the inflexible law of needed progress. Then it is evolutionism in all its realms, biological, Lamarck, and Darwin. So there's several levels of evolution, okay? This is what he's touching on. So first, the biological evolution, which is man comes from apes. And the author of that, of course, is Lamarck and Darwin. Charles Darwin. So they go into, the amoeba crawls out of the primary primordial soup, which is struck by lightning, and somehow life emerges. And this little amoeba turns into a squid, and the squid crawls out of the puddle and becomes a frog, and the frog evolves into a part dog and part monkey, and then the monkey evolves into an ape, and the ape evolves over billions of years into man. And they really believe this science fiction. And they teach this in the schools. Today!
They don't call it theory anymore.
They don't even have the respect to call it theory. They just treat it like fact, yeah. And they have all these diagrams of, the little squid, and the amoeba grows bigger, and then eventually it's a man. And it's just, talk about science fiction. Then it is evolutionism in all its realms, biological, intellectual evolution, rationalism, and its myth of indefinite progress of human reason. Rationalism and the myth of the indefinite progress of human reason. The myth of the indefinite. Because there is a true development of reasoning. Just look at St. Thomas Aquinas. People can reason and think. That's not what he's talking about. This intellectual evolution is man can unhinge from truth. That's the poisonous evolution they're talking about. where, we'll be at an age someday when blue will be green and green will be orange, and 2 and 2 will equal 10, and no truth will exist, just whatever you think it is. So the defiance of absolute truth. That's what he's talking about. And then moral evolution. Moral evolution. So, it was fine for the girls of the 20s and 30s to wear dresses, but today, that morality doesn't apply anymore. Women can wear whatever they want, show as much skin as they want, dress as much as they want to dress like men. No moral laws. So, emancipation from natural law. Emancipation from the natural law. And the divine law and the Ten Commandments. No more do I have to be faithful to one wife till I die. I can drop her, marry someone else, and still go to communion in the conciliar church, which is a heresy of Pope Francis, a moral heresy of Pope Francis. You can give communion and approve the lifestyle of the divorced and remarried. That's moral evolution. In the past, the church taught this. Now Vatican II teaches this. You see? You follow? And in that case, there is no moral law. And then political religious evolution. Emancipation of societies with regard to Jesus Christ. So no submission to Christ the King at all. He's completely irrelevant to our political decisions and laws, and even our religion. He claims to be the only way. Well, we know better now with Vatican II that there's many paths. The Holy Spirit uses many paths to the same God, which is utter blasphemy. But that's evolution. And Pope Benedict XVI really believed this. He said syllabus of errors was good for its time. But now we have Dignitatis Humanae, Gaudium et Spes, Lumen Gentium. In the old days, they had a mass that was good for the old days. Now we need a mass for modern, democratic, independent man. The new mass. The crest of evolutionary delirium, that is well expressed by Archbishop Lefebvre. Evolutionary delirium, it's exactly what it is. In other words, the crest, the height of evolutionary insanity, is reached with Father Teilhard de Chardin. Father Teilhard de Chardin. He's a Jesuit, an evolutionist, and he's so bad that he went to some Asian country, found a bone, and declared it was one of the missing bones to show the link between apes and men. It might have been the Piltdown Man. I forget which one it was. Piltdown Man or the Peking Man. And he was claiming this bone shows the link. And of course, after he died, they did study on the bones, and what they find? They find it was a pig bone that had been filed with a file and stained with dye. That's Vatican II. That's the New World That's the New World Order. Lies. Looks real and old, but it's lies. A farce. He died in 1955. He was condemned under Pius XII. And his works were condemned also, and they were forbidden to be taught in seminaries and universities. But most of the American seminaries didn't care, and they kept teaching him. And he's the one that says we're ever evolving into, where all will be one into this huge Omega Christ. We're all heading to the noosphere. And Pope Benedict was soaked in his poison as well. Yeah.
It's kind of like that picture that me and Michael saw in one of the gift shops where it was a picture of Christ carrying somebody and they were sharing an eye. Like Christ's eye was connected to his and it made one eye.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the Minnesota gift shops.
Yeah, and that was one of the symbols approved at the Vatican for representing some movement. It might have been synodality.
That kind of art came out with Pope Francis, or it became more popular.
Yes, and it has a meaning too. So Teilhard de Chardin, who affirms in the name of pseudoscience and a pseudo-mysticism that one, matter becomes spirit. Matter becomes spirit. Now that is a contradiction in terms, but that's evolution. Matter becomes spirit. That's the first major error he promoted. Imperfect can become perfect. That's evolution. You can get from imperfection, you can get perfection. From chaos, you can get order. That's evolution. Matter becomes spirit. Nature becomes the supernatural. Nature becomes the supernatural. Isn't that the height of blasphemy, isn't it? So, that's Pelagianism, isn't it? The nature can obtain supernatural grace without the help of grace. Humanity becomes the Christ. Humanity becomes the Christ. Whatever the Christ is, it's the Omega Christ in his language. But you see the thinking, it's very prevalent in today's thinking. Humanity is ever evolving to become this global Messiah, Christ, yes.
This was the explicit teaching of John Paul II too.
Yeah.
With theology of the body, and even in his opening sermon when he was first pope, he said, "Man is Christ." Yeah.
Yes, it's frightful, and you can see how it connects very well with preparing for the Antichrist. The Antichrist, will that be his language? You are Christ. And notice there's truth to it. Because we really are Christ in the true Catholic understanding by what?
Sanctifying grace.
Sanctifying grace, and we belong to Christ. He's the head, we are his
Body.
Yes. So the devil always, he always rides on truth. But he distorts it. He guts it out and fills it with a new meaning. Lucifer's smart. There's a clip of a Catholic man who's saying how the liberals always promote abortion. This is my body. That's their words. They've used Christ's words when he gives the Blessed Sacrament, pouring himself out on the cross, dying for the love of our salvation. But they demonically twist those words. This is my body. This is my right. I can kill this so-called blob in me as much as I want, up to the 9th month, and even at birth in some countries now, like Israel. They can kill the baby up to birth, which is a satanic mockery of the Mass. The sacrifice of Christ, the sacrifice of the baby is on the altar of pleasure, pride, and convenience. So, back to Teilhard de Chardin, who affirms in the name of pseudoscience and his pseudomysticism that matter becomes spirit, nature becomes the supernatural, the humanity becomes Christ, a triple confusion of an evolutionist monism irreconcilable with the Catholic faith. You cannot reconcile this with the Catholic faith. For the faith, evolution is death. For the faith, evolution is death. They speak of a church that evolves. They want an evolving faith. You must admit, they say, you must submit to the living church, to the church of today. They were writing to me from Rome these words in the mid-70s, as if the church of today should not be identical to the church of yesterday. I answered them, quote, under those conditions, tomorrow it will no longer be what you are saying today. Those people have no concept of truth. They have no concept of being. They are modernists. And he's talking about Rome, the cardinals in Rome, and the Pope. They are modernists. They don't believe in an unchanging truth. Everything must be evolving. And that's Vatican II and the new Mass. And even the new Mass is ever evolving. Right? It's always adapting and changing. So we could say there are 5 main principles of the modern world. And let us touch them now. Here, Cipriano, can you erase the board? So remember we saw that with nominalism, there is no more substances, no more absolutes. You can't know the essence of a thing. If there's no essences, then everything is reduced to voluntarism, to man's will. What I want will be true in this thinking. What I want by my will, not because it's true objectively, and I submit to it, but what's true is from my will. So we analyze the ideology, the modern system of thought, the indifferentism of the state from any creed to pronounce, the state doesn't have to profess the Catholic faith or any religion. But the state will enforce this new ideology of these 5 principles of we could call it the 5 principles of the New World Order. And what are they? These are infallibly always applicable. 1, progressism. So the Archbishop spoke about this too. Progressism. Everything is changing and it's always for the better. All change. Always for the better. So remember we said a number of classes ago, the ancient way of thinking was circular, right? And you respected the ways of your fathers and your ancestors. You didn't transgress the boundaries set by them. But remember, we said how Christ changed that vision to a linear vision from this world to the next world, to eternity, in heaven or hell. So Christ is the one who radically changed the vision of history, Christ himself, and put it from this world, we are going to heaven. Repent. Appropinquabit in vos regnum Dei. The kingdom of heaven draws near. And he brings to vision the end of history also. Matthew 24 and 25, which is?
The genuine judgment.
Yes. All human history is going to have an end. And as after that, it's eternal heaven or hell. So what a radical change of thinking. But this was perverted by the liberals and the modern philosophies. So that the linear vision of history is this world, and it ends in this world with a paradise on earth. Paradise on earth. Hence capitalism, with everybody owning everything and a wonderful materialistic world, or Pius XI,
Communism.
communism. Capitalism or communism will hold this dream of a materialistic paradise. Okay? So progressism is this drunken idea that all progress, all change is for the better. Now it's modern times. You leave those dusty old ways behind. Ever hear those expressions?
Yeah.
To say that 5 centuries ago would be unheard of. They would consider you like an insane guy. Abandon the ways of our fathers. It would be absurd. A principle that everyone should accept is change. This is the modern way of thinking. It applies to the modern mentality. Advertising does this. They break all morality to advertise their products, right? The less skin, the more bold the advertising, right? The French philosopher, one of them said, man has always the desire to change, but now desires to be closer to what doesn't change. Change is to have structures always produce, order to non-change, to virtue. Now man wants to change to actualize change. He wants to actualize change. Modern man wants change to not be out of fashion. Change to have more change, no longer for the perfection, but just don't let others surpass me. To be in the mode, to be with it, or woke in today's silly language, which requires no virtue. Modern society thinks we are in an era of science left behind in the dark Middle Ages. So, all changes for the better. That's progressism. The second principle of the modern world is evolution, or evolutionism, and we just saw this with Archbishop Lefebvre. But it's what's deadly about it, it allows the renouncing of a fixed order and a creator. that is the first cause, first mover, etc., of the 5 proofs of God's existence. Everything is ever evolving and changing. No fixed order in this vision of evolution. It knocks out the natural question, who put this order? Who put this order? The Creator, the first cause, the first mover. It renounces the idea of the efficient cause. No efficient cause outside of the universe. So in St. Thomas, De Deo Creatore, the study of God as the Creator is abolished. So evolution says it comes from within itself. If there's no Creator and there's no fixed order and no supreme intellect to put order and laws and creation, then how does it evolve? How is change happening if there's no external cause, no first cause? Where's it all going to come from? Where is the impulse, the drive of evolution going to come from if it's not from outside? Where will it come from? The impulse towards change and evolution and improving in their way of thinking, then where is it going to come from? If it's not from outside, it's going to come from where?
From within man.
Subjectivism, yes. And it's called by St. Pius X, immanentism. Manens, which means to stay or remain, means inside. Immanentism, inside the person. So since truth will no longer be outside me, it's going to be inside me. And we'll pick up next time. Agitorium nostrum in nomine Domini.